Okay. Welcome back to next session of this Lean Six Sigma. Mainly, we are focusing on how to use the Lean Six Sigma methodology in specific to RCM, right? What are all the methodology we can use? That's what we are discussing. We are in the 12th week. Okay. So in that, what we are going to cover here is the same measure phase. Okay. See, what is the importance of the measuring phase? Okay. Okay. That is very important because unless we understand what all the things we have to do, it will become a little challenge for us, right? How we are going to control our measuring phase in a better way. Right. So if you look into this measuring phase, what are all the area I have to focus on? See, the first thing is the measure phase should link with your project charter, right? What I aimed at my goal, and is it aligned with my measure? Am I measuring what is relevant to my project? That's what the importance of this measuring phase, right? See, mainly the measuring phase, after you measure your required data, it is going to set your high level goals. Okay, that is the first point. And second one, whatever you are doing a validation for your projects, okay, this is going to give you your initial level, right? Whether my validation part is it matching with the details or not? Okay, that's what it is going to give you. And second one, we are by measuring itself, we will understand the whatever the data is required for me, is it available or not available? Okay, that will give a clarity to you. So these are all the areas which we can get it from this measuring phase. Okay, second. Yeah. And next one, when we are going to define the phase, right? One, validating the improvement goal. See, why you are doing the data collection. Once your data is collected, okay, through this measure, okay, you got the data and how you are going to use this data for an improvement phase. And this, whatever you data you identified, you collected, that will become your baseline to start your project. And this will define your process capability. See, for example, I'm measuring and I'm planning to do one data project or my improvement project on eligibility. So in that scenario, your baseline, say why we are doing this project, the eligibility denial is a continuously my problem. So you have to collect the data related to that particular denial for a particular time period. See, for example, I'm taking a 1 year data and then I'm showing that out of all your problem, the eligibility is your top problem, okay, which need to be resolved. So that become my baseline. Okay, I'm establishing my baseline. From there, I am calculating how I'm going to improve on it to make this improvement, whether I have a process capability. Say, for example, you are recommending, right? It need to do a discovery. Whether you have the process capability to do a discovery, that's the question, right? We need to check whether what stage I am in, right? That will solve, okay, what I'm going to measure and how I am going to context it. See, for example, this is what I discussed, right? When you started defining your phase, that is a collection of the data, we'll call it as a pre-measure phase. In that, what we are trying to do here is, before you start any of the project, first you identify whether relevant data are available or not. See, for example, I'll take the same example, eligibility. Last 6 months, there is no problem on the eligibility denial for a project. If you're going to start that eligibility is my project, then what will happen? No one is going to give attention to that, right? Because that is not their problem. So before you identify, you measure what is your challenge, and then from the base you start. See, that's what we are discussing. Whenever you are trying to get your project scope, that should align with the data what is available. And your project objective should be aligned with your data what you have. And based on that data, based on your measuring, you are going to come back. What is the improvement I'm going to bring? See, for example, eligibility, I don't have any problem. What improvement you're going to bring there, right? So you have to identify a problem, then you are going to give a solution for that. This is very important one. This is very crucial because you are going to define the process and you are going to measure it, right? What is the measurement? When you measure it, your define may go wrong, right? You are trying to do a project after your data point. your define itself may go wrong. So you identify that whether it is suitable to conduct a project or I have to change my project. That is the important one. And second one, what is the objective for that? See, for example, tolerance measurement objective. See, every time when we try to run a data, right? When you collect the data, every data will not be 100% accurate. Okay, there may be a deviation. See, it is not applicable to us, right? For example, if you are going to do it for a RCM, the data points are very crucial. You will get immediately and then exact data to be available. For example, you're going for a industry side, the production industry. So I'm going to measure. Okay, for example, we'll take an industry which is producing a nuts and bolts. Okay, the nut should be around 3 mm. Okay, when you collect that as a measurement, okay, there will be a deviation. Okay, it may be 2.9 mm to 3.1. That is your variance. So that we are calling here as a tolerance variance. Okay, what variance I can keep. So this is the base, right? I'm setting up my base saying that this is my tolerance limit. How I'm going to start that. See, but if you come to RCM, if you come to healthcare, okay, we have an exact data. I don't think so. This is tolerance is needed for us. See, for some time you don't have a data exactly. Then declare your tolerance limit. Okay, what I'm going to do on this. And what is the objectives? Okay, relationship between your objectives. Say measure objects. What you are given your object in the project. There is a project charter, and measure phase is going to provide map and campus. So what it means? For example, I am setting the basement for me to start the project. Confirm the starting location and then distance from the target. These are all some measurements. Okay, how it is going to be. See, the measure phase and your project objective both are should go hand in hand, right? If anything deviation, your project may go wrong. That's what we are trying to convey here. So here, what you're going to see here is what is your process analysis? Okay, how you are going to do the documentation for this. See here, you have to give what measurement you are going to take and how you are going to take it. So this is very important for a green belt thing. Okay, so critical preparatory step. So you have to give a clear standard. Okay, what is my process? Where I will start, where I will end in the recording of the data point, right? And fundamentally, you're going to collect the baseline information related to you and define and identify specific process. See, for example, I'm working on the eligibility denial improvement. See, now I'm going to define and then identify my specific process. See, for example, I'm going to the front desk, right? Who is doing a registration of a patient. That is my process. I want to check how it is happening. Then define it. See, it is the eligibility I'm going to do from the registration desk, right? The front desk people, what they are doing, how I'm going to define that process, and I'm going to identify what is happening there. So unless you define it, we will not understand what is your role, where you are measuring, how you are measuring, and why you are measuring. That you have to give a clarity. And defining the metrics for measurement is very important to decide your project objectives. See, my project objectives is to improve or bring the operational excellence in my eligibility process. So in that is your objective. Then it should align with your what metrics you are going to measure, right? The same way process baseline should be established. Before process is going to be improved, first you measure, right? Unless you measure, you will not track what improvement you brought in. So this is very important. You have to bring the measurement inside. And here the casual factors and then effects within the system. See, when you measure, okay, for example, the patient is coming and then the canceling the appointment, the patient is coming and then they're rescheduling the appointment. So you have to consider every factor into the place and then you have to bring that particular process. And core activities, so process modeling and then documentation will be your core activity. See what in the measure phase, what you're going to do is first thing, what is my project objective? For that, where I'm going to start, what is my benchmark, okay, where I'm going to start my goal and what I'm going to measure. Okay, this is my baseline, how I'm going to start, how I'm going to define my metrics. Okay, what is my process baseline? And then once I measure, then I know that how I'm going to improve on. So this is very important. Unless you measure it today, so tomorrow after your project completes, okay, if anything is improved or decreased, how you're going to prove it? For that, you need a data. That's what it means. And second thing, the same thing, what we already discussed on in the measure phase also, we will add the flow chart and then process map. It is for your measurement, right? What I'm going to measure, you give a proper workflow tool, right? This is the way I'm going to measure it. This is the steps I'm going to follow. These are all the things you have to do. The same way, process mapping also you can use. These are all different techniques, right? How I'm going to inform the entire world, what all the things I'm going to measure, what are all the phase I'm going to do. This is what we are going to do. The same thing, relation metric, these are all we already covered. So I'm just pushing it out. Relationship map, okay, and the same way, cross-functional map. So these are all some of the techniques you can use. And second one, return procedure, right? In the measure phase, how I'm going to start. You can write your procedure. For example, procedure number 1, I am checking what is the front end staff is doing. And procedure number 2, I'll check that from there, whatever the patient they put a appointment, I'll check what is the eligibility for that particular patients. And number 3, okay, I'll use the discovery model, or I'll use the API, or I'll use manual thing. That are all your steps, right? You have to write down your steps on it. And for example, if it is a bigger, larger project, right, and you are not able to do single man, and you are going to bring your team inside. So in that, you have to give a clear instruction to the team how they need to measure it, what are all the step-by-step sequence they have to follow. All this you have to give as a work instruction. Okay, if it is a bigger project and you are including around 10 people into the projects, that and all you have to add here. And second one, that's very important one. Okay, what is your X and what is your Y? Okay, we already discussed f y equal to f of x, right? Your output depends on your input. So you define what is your input here, right? And then that is input is your causes and output is your efforts, right? So you have to define, okay, how I'm going to measure this particular one, right? This is what we plan to cover this week. Since it's a very shorter topic, I'll move ahead with another one also. See, the same measure phase, we have a how to analyze, right? See, for example, once you identify, for example, I'm getting 3 or 4 different data points. Then you have to identify which data is a reliable data. Okay, for example, can I go in this order or anything I need to change, right? As I told you, for healthcare, okay, our data will not at all a problem, right? We have enough and then enormous data point, right? We don't want to worry about it, but I'm giving in general what are all the things you have to be very careful, right? And second one, define the specific metric. For that specific metric, create a baseline and then start collecting. Okay. And experimental methodological mathematical method. Say, for example, sometimes you don't have a data and you are going to do some experiment. You are calling some 10 people and then you are asking some question and then you are collecting the data from them by the interview method. These are all you have to document, right? How I am doing an experimental method or what is the mathematical method I am using. These are all the data points you have to give. Here, before, see, for example, if you don't have a data, right, and you are going to create or you're going to measure the data by collecting it. See, for example, let's say we'll take a election thing, right? When the 3 or 4 parties are in the election ground, right? What they will do a survey, right? Which party can win in the election. So these are all the measurement, what they are going to do. In that, you clearly call out what is the accuracy you are expecting and what is the bias you are going to consider and how stable it is. See, for example, today I ask the people, they will say that party one. Tomorrow, the same person may say the party two. What is the stability of it? Okay, that is a interview method. See, for example, you're going to measure, as we told, nuts and bolts. Okay, so for example, bolt, I'm measuring with my vernier caliper, right? What is the deviation? Okay, every time I'll come back and measure, it will be the same or something is going to change. The same way, the precision. How many times, if I repeat, it should come the same measurement. See, for us, it's very clear. I have a data, right? If either you measure or I measure, the data will be same. We don't have a problem. But for example, the nut. Okay, when the person A is measuring, it may show something else. When B is measuring, it may differ. Okay, that's what we are saying. What is the bias? What is the accuracy percentage? But we don't have this particular issue. And repeatability and then reproducibility. Okay, these are all very, very important points when it is coming to the your measurement. But as I told you, we don't need to worry about it. It is not going to change, right? So this will be mainly for the production area where every time it may change. And before I finalize my measurement system, I have to see, for example, today I'm measuring one. If I come back and then repeat the same measuring tomorrow, is it going to give the same data or something will change? If it is going to give something data differently, you have to be careful and you have to note it down. Okay, what is the variability you are going to expect? So this is not applicable to us. Okay. And method of analysis, right? See, the repeatability and reproducibility, that's what we discussed. That is very, very important. Based on that only, it is going to set up. Okay. And the range method, okay, what is the average and range you're selecting? And then ANOVA method, okay, analysis of the variance. These are all the things which will include when your measurements are changing. Okay, this is not for us, but I want you to understand why these are all the things are we are following, right? The integration with process performance, right? How we are going to integrate that particular point with this. And here, you see precision to tolerance. These are all you will, when you go to the black belt, okay, or to the next level, they will go in depth with your precision to tolerance. Okay, what is your exact and what is the tolerance limit? See, for example, usually it will be 0.1 percentage, right? That is a 1% deviation will be accepted. Like that, they will finalize it, what need to be done. And total variability, okay, how much it can vary. These are all some of the formulas, okay, for the data collection. And then we will do this kind of analytics when you come to the black belt side of it. Right. So with this, we are closing today. See, from next week onwards, it will become a completely the theoretical portion will start. Okay, we are starting the analyticals. Okay, we have to do everything into the practical. I'm just giving a heads up. Okay, AD, these are all very important one. And whatever the projects you are planning to do, right, we will start picking up from here. That is what we are going to cover in the analysis phase. Once we are coming into this particular phase, everything will be the practical session. So from next week onwards, don't miss the class, and that will be definitely helpful for you to identify what you are going to do, what type of project you are going to do. Okay, that's what we are going to cover from next week onwards.